Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Nishmas Welcome to our very, very choshev guest, Dov Harris, all the way from London. Shalom Aleichem. You're not a guest anymore. Who else do we have here? Oh, what's your name, Tzaddik? David. Oh, from David from Neve Daniel. Shalom Aleichem, Rib David. I received this picture from 300 people. You could stop sending it to me.
Is that Yosef?
Oh, who's the guy? Who's the gentleman next to you? Shalom Aleichem. You have a last name. That's nice. From also? Shalom Aleichem. Welcome. Okay, I don't know. Somebody sent this in. Many people sent it in. I guess this guy did some sort of characters of Magid Shurim. Rabbi Sai, so just to give you a Agdama, yesterday I went with my very good Chaver, Mendy Orbach, to Midbar Yehuda. I had to take care of some business over there. And while we were there, he goes, I know a guy that could show you where the Makam of Sari Azazel is. Maybe. Some people say it's there. Okay, let's go. So I have to tell you, it's like the first time in a long time that I... He's up. It's the same. It's the guy, he's going to go to sleep. Don't worry. In 5 minutes, he'll be out cold. Don't worry. Just put up for 5 minutes. You're good. Here's a picture I took. And then we took a video. Here, check this out. This is Gevaldik. This volume here. You ready?
Good looking guy.
Okay.
Hi, Rabbi. I'm here in the middle of the desert.
Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Dear Adonai Moreno, Rabbeinu Rebelli Shlita, I have the tremendous chus today to meet the one and only King of Chesed, Mr. Mark Ashkenazi. We did a cheshbon. It's been 34 months since we first started speaking on Zoom after the night shir. Shout out to Ben Schwartz. And on WhatsApp, he randomly would send toys for my kids for Pesach and decorations for them for the sukkah, just because. And all this to a guy who's 3,000 miles away that he never met. But we are family nonetheless because of MDY. It's humbling every time I stop to think about it for a second. In any case, Mark found himself in LA, and even though lunch didn't work out, we still were there to schmooze for about 20 minutes. It was great to finally meet him in person. Also, if you notice the store that we took the picture in front of, just to remind you of the fact you got called up to the chuppah for a bracha and Lululemon pants. As always, much love. Kapara alecha, kapara alai, kapara al kulam. Zayt matzliach. Have a wonderful Shabbos. The only shayla I have one question. If you're ready in front of Lululemon, how come you didn't buy Mark Ashkenazi a pair of pants? We always say the Koilel is sponsored by Anonymous from Lakewood, the Refuah Shleima, my mother-in-law, Shlamis Esther Baz Bela. The Koilel is sponsored by Nishmas, the Chaim ben Moshe, Nishmas Betzal ben Moshe. The Masech is sponsored by Moshe Banda to thank Hashem that I'm able to thank Him for everything that I have. Paras HaChodesh, Nishmas Chaim bas Yosef. Paras HaChodesh, Hashem should open up all the tzinorot bracha for Baruch Tzvi Nissim ben Shoshana Lea. Paras HaChodesh, Jeff Rosner, Maaser 2, and remainder. Nishmas, Yosef Simcha, Chaim ben Shlomo Yehuda. Shlomo Yehuda is here today. Neshama should have an aliyah. Paras HaChodesh, Lakewood NJ families, Lakewood, New Jersey, because Torah and Achdus are the best gula. Listen, before I forget, I have to tell you this. I got this from Yoshi. I kept on going on and on with voice messages and illustrations and everything to tell me this nekuda. Our very good friend, Avraham Cohen, who does a lot of the tech here, was in the hospital for 9 days. And during those 9 days, Yoshi's computer went out. Basically, he has no access to internet, and it was very, very difficult to communicate with him and for him to send me the drawings, etc., etc. Last night, Avremi was discharged from the hospital, Baruch Hashem. Before he went home, he ran from store to store to store to find this SD card that was needed because it was on order or something. He found it. And then SSD, whatever it is. And installed it before he went home. Yoshi said that's why MDY is what it is, because of people like him, because of people like Mark Ashkenazi, because of all the people in the background coming out of the hospital and doing all this. It's unbelievable. Should have a Refuah Shleima. The week. This is the last day by Avraham Kahen, the Neshama of Emuna Rivka bat Binyamin, who was 20 years old, a girl in his community who passed away, and her father and brother are missing the Torah they're learning because they're in shiva. Paras Hayoim, brain intact, unleash your full potential, should be zoichel, nachas kedusha, and tremendous success in all my endeavors. Paras Hayoim, Eli Nishmas, Harav Eliyahu Shraga Tzvi ben Chaim Hirsh Lewitan, on his 4th yahrzeit by his family, Yishkoyach, and Shoshana should have an aliyah. Refuah Shleima, for Yaakov ben Pesha Gittin, successful kidney transplant today. Amen. Wow, that's probably a big thing, no? You wait a long time for, should go well. The Englewood MDY Chevra, in honor of Dovi Eisenberger's daughter's engagement, Mazel Tov, in the art of the month, for a complete refuah for Chaim Tzvi ben Leah. Rabbi Isai, we're holding my brand new Mishnah. We have a lot to accomplish today. The official Mishnah is sponsored by Yoeli Friedman, Eli Stefansky, my dear father, Chaim Avraham Shalom Yerucham ben Yisrael David Allah Shalom. Evet shenishba ubdeuhu. You have a slave that was captured, and somebody redeemed him. So the question is, and we're going to see in the Gemara exactly what's going on here. When somebody takes your slave forcefully, captures your slave, do you give up on him? Do you lose ownership of him just because somebody took him? Somebody releases him, redeems him. Who owns him now? Does he go back to himself? Does he go back to the original owner? Does he go back to the guy that redeemed him? Im l'shum eved, if he was redeemed with the intent that he should, a knani, only a knani we're talking about over here. We're talking about an eved knani. We're always talking about eved knani, but because in your Gemara it says eved knani, so you asked me the question. Good, okay, shkoyach. Eved knani, we're talking about a slave who's from eved kechavim. You have to be careful what you say today. Eved kechavim, who was sold to a Jew, and he's chayiv b'mitzvahs like a woman, bris milah, the whole thing, but chayiv b'mitzvahs like a woman. Ubdo im l'shum eved, the guy that, how do you say, was paid in English? Redeemed. Okay, it is redeemed. If he redeemed him and he had intent that he should remain a slave, yishtabed. He should continue being a slave to who? We'll see in the Gemara. Im l'shum ben chayrin. But if he had intent that he should be free, lo yishtabed. He shouldn't be a slave. Rav Shimon Gamliel oimer, ben kach yishtabed, to who? Either way, we don't care about your intent, he should be a slave. Says Gemara Ma'askin, let's think about this for a second. If we're talking about Yosh, where a person says, "Oh, I can't believe I lost my slave, I'll never see him again," he gave up on him. He gave up on him. So if a person, Lifnei Yosh, he didn't give up on him. So if he had intent that he should be a ben chayrin, he should be free, who cares? At the end of the day, he's a slave. What releases him from being a slave? He's still a slave. The owner never gave up on him. So I don't care that you redeemed him and you had this intent, that intent. Your intent is not important to me because he's a slave. Slave walking down the street and you walk over to him and you redeem him and he's still owned by somebody else. There's no yush. You have to say that the owner gave up on him. He gave up on him and therefore he's not the original owners. So if he's not the original owner, l'shum eved amay yishtabed. So then why, if you have intent to make him a slave, he's a slave. He's not a slave anymore. The original owner gave up on him. You can't be kind of Jew. Once he's released, he becomes a regular Jew. You like that, huh? He's a Jew. You can't just go over to a Jew in the street and make him your slave. Okay. So the Gemara, Omar Abaya, Loilam Lifnei Yush. So maybe we should see this just for a second, complete second. Here we go. We have Abai and Rava. Abai says we're talking about before Yush. Rava says we're talking about after Yush. Each one has a little bit of a chiddush here. There's one point that's a chiddush. If we're talking about before Yush, so what's the problem? How? The problem is, if it's before Yush, so he's owned by the first guy. So how could anybody else take ownership? So that we have to answer that question. How could somebody else become an owner? He's owned by the first one. So for that, Abai is going to say, Mimne v'loy parki. Chachamim, take it away from the first guy, give it to the second guy. Hefker, bezin, hefker. Why? Because otherwise nobody will redeem him. Special halacha. You ask me a question, how, if he's owned by the first guy, how does it go to the second guy? Azay is. This is what Chacham instituted. Rava says we're talking about after Yush. So after Yush, hold on. After Yush, so he's not owned by the first one. He's not owned by anybody. It's after Yush. So how does it go back to the second guy? You have to understand how it goes to anybody. Oh, so we're going to explain that he goes back to the second guy. We punish him. Because otherwise everybody will go ahead and run away. Hopefully, let's say you don't like your master. So you'll hope that somebody captures you. And then they'll redeem you. And then you'll have another owner. It's better for you to be anywhere but by your current owner. The grass is greener on the other side. Let me get another owner. So they instituted no. So let's see inside. So we're talking about before Yush, and if it's before Yush, he still halachically should be owned by the first original master. And therefore it's simple that when you redeem, the second guy redeems him and has a mind for the first guy, he goes to the first guy. Or he has a mind that he should be an Evet, he goes back to the first guy. And if he has a mind that it should be free, but if he has a mind that he should be free, he goes free. Why? We have to understand this. There's no Yush. He should be owned by the first guy. He himself doesn't want him, so he for sure doesn't go to the second guy. The Rabbi Rishinami loy, but why in the world should he not go back to his original owner? He's still a slave. The answer is Dilmo Mimni v'loy parki. Mimni, oh, I got it. Yeah, with the ayin over there. Okay, fine. We have to fix that, Yosef. Sticking the ayin in the Mimni. Yeah, like Rav Gifta used to say. He used to tell his Bachrim, Damaratzim in 3 languages, or at least 2, in Lashon Kodesh and in English. I grew up in America until I was 10. Went to Eretz Yisrael for 3 years. So I'm a complete Amaretz in Hebrew and in English. Okay, that was my thing, my proud. I wrote Mimni. Mimni with the ayin. V'loy parki. Now, we're going to explain, it makes sense according to the whole sugya here, that there's no mitzvah to redeem a slave. Yeah, he has a couple mitzvahs of a woman. No mitzvah. No mitzvah to redeem him. People are not going to redeem. Typically, people redeem Jews that are in captivity. But they're not going to redeem the slave. We want the Jews to step up and redeem him. Why? Because otherwise he'll be nishbal ben hagoyim, will have problems. He'll be influenced by his new master. So we say, you know what? He's not going back. Don't worry about it. He's not going back to his original. You could take care of him. If you redeem him, he'll be a full-fledged Jew. You don't have to worry that he's going to be a slave. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, either way, he should be a slave. Why? Because we have no concern. What's the concern? People are not going to redeem him. They will redeem him. Why? He holds it's a mitzvah to redeem a slave. So no issues. And if it's talking about before Yush, right? We're going in Abaya. So we're talking about so it goes back to the original owner. Okay. Now Rav. We're talking about the original owner gave up on the slave. If he gave up on the slave, he's no longer a slave. But if the second guy who's redeeming him had a mind to redeem him on condition that he's a slave, he becomes a slave. If he had intent that he should be free, he goes free because there's already Yush, he's not a slave, and nobody had intent that he should be a slave, so he goes out free. Great. He becomes an evet to who? To the first guy, the original guy. Special halacha Chizkiah says, why? We're concerned that it's a great trip. Huh? If you want to get out of your current condition, you don't like the way your master is treating you, so you run over to the next guy that's walking down the street that has a gun. You say, listen, capture me. And like this, and my master is going to give up, Yush, and I go out free. So therefore they instituted, goes back to the original. He goes back to the original owner. The famous Maaser, I said it before, we'll say it anyways because it fits right in here. There was a guy that from the shtetl that was captured by the goyim, and the Rav went around and they said we have to do pidyon shvuyim, and they got a lot of money, and the Rav noticed that it was very easy to raise the money. People were giving and he said, there must be something wrong here. If it's so easy to get Yidden to give money for this, I'm not buying it. And he told his henchmen, he said, listen, go to the cave where they're at and just beat those guys up. They went in there, they beat them up. And it turns out that the Jew and the guy made a deal. He made a deal. He said, listen, I'm going to pretend that you capture me, we're going to give the money, we'll split. And Shalom Yisrael. Okay. When talking about on the train, I used to go to Passaic a lot, go through the train stations. So in the Port Authority in Manhattan, a frum guy came over to me and he said that he needs money to go to South Fallsburg, a whole Maaser, and he's willing to give me, it was like, $25, whatever it is, he's willing to give me his coat as a mashkin. So I said, listen, it's not my money, it's my father's, let me call up my father. So I called my father. My father said, run. So what? He said, just start running. It's like, I said, okay, I'm sorry, I can't give you any money. And all of a sudden, the guy, this frum guy, he was Israeli, he starts saying, John, and like this big guy comes from around the corner, Maaser Shaya. Anyway, fine, run. In Port Authority, people ask you for money, it's a whole different thing. I invented the thing in Port Authority, not that we have a whole daf to do, but I'll just tell you real quickly. If anybody, this is new, but I'll tell you this, tell me if I ever said this one. I invented this thing that people use, maybe they use it or maybe they don't. When people used to ask me for money in Port Authority, they say it was the same thing. I need to get to so-and-so and I'm missing. I'm saying, how much are you missing? $675. I said, oh, sure. Do you have change of 20? And he goes, yeah. I said, okay, then you have your $675. Zog the Gemara. Fine. Meisvei, Amar Rav Shimon Gamliel. As the Gemara, Rav Shimon Gamliel says, right? That's a svara. Don't worry about it. You're worried that that people are not going to redeem him, the slave. People will redeem him. According to Abai, he's still a slave. Why is he still a slave? Because it's before Yush. Therefore, it makes a lot of sense. He's still a slave. People will redeem him. He's not even a slave anymore. So it's not really the point. Just if it's a mitzvah to redeem, it's not a mitzvah. The whole point of Rava is that we have chizkiya svara that a person wants to free himself, and we're going to send him back to where he belongs. Okay, simple answer. Reb Shimon Gamliel wasn't sure what's going on there. He wasn't sure of the svara. And this is what he said. I don't know what you're talking about. What's the case? If it's before Yush, if he's still a slave, then people will redeem him. Don't worry about it. And then if it's after Yush, then you have my svara. Okay. And according to Rav, it says that we're talking about the original master gave up on him, and we're talking about that he should go back, and when the second guy redeems him, it goes to the second guy. Rabbi Sheni, just a simple question. He's not a slave, right? The original guy gave up on him, so he's free. Ask the Gemara, Rabbi Sheni man kanile. So how could the second guy acquire him? From who is he buying him? Says the Gemara Mishabai, from the bad guys, the guys that captured him. Says Gemara Shabai Guvim Mikanile. But how do they have a kinyan on him? They grab a slave off the street, it becomes their slave? Yes. Kanile Lamaisi Yadav. And Rashi says that he could be kind of him, he could be kind of his body through tvila, says Rashi. Okay. Dunk him and becomes But right now they acquire him for the Maaser Yadayim. And they have Maaser Yadayim, they own his handiwork, and they sell that to the second Jew. And then the second Jew takes him, puts him in the mikvah, and then he's kind him completely. Okay, Domer Shlakish. How do we know this idea? You could buy from the non-Jew. A non-Jew cannot buy a Jewish slave, and they cannot even acquire one another. A non-Jew cannot acquire a slave from a non-Jew. Maybe they shouldn't be able to acquire one of the. You just finished saying that they cannot acquire one from the other. And also you're saying, maybe you think you can't. It was mashma that you could. But again, a guy cannot buy a guy. So then why are you continuing to say, oh, you think a guy cannot buy a guy? Yeah, he can't buy a guy. The halacha is a guy cannot buy another guy to make him a evet kanani mamish. You own him completely, his whole body. But maybe you think that they cannot acquire him. Okay, stam that his work goes to you. That he could do. The Gemara then that says if a guy could acquire a Jew for his Maaser Yadayim, if a guy could buy a Jew, so certainly a guy could buy a guy. Not completely, just for this Maaser Yadayim. Says Gemara, but I still don't have a good raya. We're talking about bad guys. Okay? They see a slave walking down the street, they say he looks like a nice strong slave, let's steal him. So they capture the slave. The Gemara says, how are they kind to him? They certainly didn't pay for him. They grabbed him, they kidnapped him. That's not paying. So what are you going to say? It's chazaka. How do you do chazaka? On a field, you take a hoe and you make a hole in the ground and it becomes yours. How do you do it with a slave? If the slave dresses you, puts on your shoes, that's chazaka. Al chazaka lai. Gemara, Papa, I'm an umoyav tir b'sichai. Rabbi say Parshas Shavua. The Refuah Shleima says that Klal Yisrael cannot capture Amud Moav. Okay? It's Aser here. This we don't need today. Hefker, Bezin, Hefker. Next. Missing all my psukim here. He says he had given fine, that was from before. Now here, these are the psukim we're looking for. In Dvarim, al totzar es moyav al tizgar ba milchama. You're not allowed to make a war with moyav. And then it says 10 psukim later, v'karaftemul b'nei amoin al tetzum al tizgar bam. You're not allowed to go to war with them. So beautiful thing happened. Check this out. This is Yoshi's handiwork. These are the 3 Nechalim, Nachal Zered, Nachal Aaron, Nachal Yaboik. And check out how it was. You have Amoin and Moav, green and purple. Sichain is in the middle. Okay? It's a little different than the maps we have in the Chumashim. There's a mistake in these Chumashim. Sichain is a little tiny red thing. So listen to this nace that happened. We're not allowed to go to war with Amoin. We're not allowed to go to war with Moav. We're not allowed to go to war with green and purple. Red did the job for us. So here's you can't go to war there. No war. Comes Sichain, and they go to war with Ammon and Moav, capture most of their land, or a lot, let's say a good 50% or more, and then Klal Yisrael went to war with Sichain, and we took Sichain. The problem is, we can't go to war with Sichain. It's not Sichain's. It's not their land. They stole it from Ammon and Moav. Teretz is, you're allowed to steal it. A guy could acquire land from another guy with chazaka, force. That's not what chazaka means, but they took it by force. So maybe if they could acquire land with force, they could acquire a slave and land. Says Gemara, sorry, let's just repeat it. Sichon was metaher, allowed us to go and capture Ammon and Moav because we weren't allowed to go directly to Ammon and Moav. Hashem said, don't do that. But Sichon we're allowed to. So how do they do it? Through chazaka, so too by a slave. Okay, so we find that a non-Jew could capture a non-Jew. How do you know in this case, right? Because they captured a Jew. They captured a slave, and the slave is semi-Jewish. He's chai b'mitzvahs like Isha. So how do you know that the guy was able to capture this Eved Knani, which is semi-Jewish, b'chazaka? Yosef, vayishp mimenu shevi. Again, it's Parshas HaShavua. In this week's Parsha, in Eretz Yisrael, which is a fascinating thing if you think about it. Vayishp mimenu shevi. It's a lashon yochid. Rashi says that they captured one slave, one shifcha. And you have to make a kavachomer here. If Klai Yisrael went to war and went crazy, so to speak, over one shifcha, so certainly over a yid or many yidden. So I want to tell you, Rabbi Isai, I keep on pounding this. Tonight, when you walk into shul, you're going to see a shavui. You're going to see a guy that's captured by his yetzer hara. Because in every single shul, there's many people, unfortunately, that don't open up a sefer. You know them. We all know them in every single shul. And we have a chiyuv to redeem them. Vayish b'menu shevi, we got to take them. It's a chiyuv, pidyon shvuyim. Bring them to Torah, Rabbi Yisai. It's not just, Eli's saying it, and who cares about him? Let Peres Chaim Levine do it. You have a chiyuv. You have a chiyuv of pidyon shvuyim. You hear you. Not joking. Zok the Gemara. Omer Rav Shomim Barabba, Omer Rabbi Yochanan Evet Shabarach Mebeis Asurim. You have a slave who was captured. What do you mean Beis Asurim? It's not jail like we say today, jail. He was captured and he ran away. He risked his life, because if you try to escape captivity, you get killed. We're talking about that the owner gave up on him. So he goes out l'cheiros. Because he'll get shichur. Not only that, since he cannot work for the original guy, so at least give him his get, let him get married. Because right now he's stuck. He's like in between. He's not a slave, but he can't get married to anybody. So give him a get shichur. Regardless, as the Gemara, according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, he goes back to the original owner. Listen to this. Who says it? Rabbi Yochanan. Who said the first halacha? Rabbi Yochanan. Omar Rav Shimon again. Omar Rav Shimon Rabba. Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Evet Shabarach. What does Rabbi Yochanan say? That if he leaves jail, he goes out to freedom. And over here, Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Kamakim Shoshana Rabbi Shimon Gamliel b'Mishnah Seinu halacha kamaisai. We just had the other day that the halacha is like Rava over Abaya besides 6 things. The halacha is like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel in everything in Shas besides 3 things. Chutz me'arev etzidam v'rayach reina. So what do? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says it goes back to the original master. You Rabbi Yochanan say we pass like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. This is not one of the 3 things we don't. And so how come you Rabbi Yochanan say that it doesn't go back to the master? If he runs away from jail, he goes free. According to Abaya, I have an easy answer. He goes back to the master in our Mishnah because there's no Yush, so he's still owned by the master. But if it's after the original master gives up, so then he goes out to freedom. But according to Rava, our Mishnah is talking about after Yush. How are you going to explain it? In both cases, in our Mishnah, he should also go out. It's after Yush. There's no reason to explain that he should go back to the original master. What's the whole svara of Shimon Gamliel? Why does he go back to the original master? Because Chizkiah says otherwise every slave will run away and then he'll go free. He'll go to another master. But in our case, since he ran away from captivity, it's not running away from your master's house. When you run away from captivity, you're giving up your life. You don't need this gzeira of Chizkiah. Chizkiah says, I'm concerned that a slave is going to run away to get himself free. Over here we don't have that because he's not going to run away to kill himself. Real quickly, because we're in the Musar mode, Rabbi Yochanan just says that imagine if a person was in jail and there's a big giant hole. He discovers a hole. They had it in Eretz Yisrael. One of the big embarrassment of the Israeli jail system, where the biggest terrorists, they dug a hole and they ran out. Right? Remember this case? When was it? When? A year ago. You're sitting in a jail cell. You wake up at 2 a.m. and you discover that under the sink there's a big hole, and you don't run away. The jailer will come in, take a stick, and whack you over the head. What are you, Meshugana? You had the opportunity. Why don't you run away? So the Rebbeinu says that's us. We have an opportunity to do tshuva every day. We have that hole there. We can run, but we don't. Zog the Gemara. I'm saying story time. Rabbi say, I got it though. I'm saying the Mar Shmuel Ishtaboy, the slave of Mar Shmuel was captured. Now I think it's the same Shmuel that his daughter was captured. We spoke about it yesterday. There's a lot of captivity going on there. Parkul l'shum amase. So somebody loved Mar Shmuel, and he said, "Listen, I'm going to redeem her on condition she goes back to the original Shmuel." Put her in a box, shipped her to Mar Shmuel. And they said, "Anaka Rishim Gamliel Svirlan." We all know Rishim Gamliel that it always goes back to the master. And you, Mar Shmuel, I don't know what you exactly hold. Even if you hold like another shita, this is before Yush. We had intent to redeem her for you. Says Gemara, they thought that Mar Shmuel didn't give up on her. It's not true. This occurred after Mar Shmuel said, "Forget it, I'm never going to see her again." Not only could he opens up a box. To his surprise, here's his shifcha. But he said, "I can't use her anymore because I gave up on her." But not only that, you believe this? He has a shifcha. What should he do? I can't use her, so let me just give her a get shechur. She can marry whoever she wants. No, she's so free. She doesn't even need to get shechur. Shmuel tamei dama Shmuel hamafka avdoi yotzil cheirus v'nitzar get shechur. Okay, so he's mechulik on Rabbi Yochanan. Shenema v'chol eved ish miknas kesef eved ish v'lo eved isha. It says that when you're doing Karim Pesach, all your slaves have to have bris milah. So what? Only if you're a man and you have slaves, they need a bris milah. What if you're a woman, you own slaves? They don't need a bris milah, of course. Elo eved, there's an extra word ish over there. Elo eved sheyesh l'rishus l'Rabbi Olav. Kari eved sheyesh l'rishus l'Rabbi Olav. Ein kari eved. So Shmuel holds that if you don't have rishus, you don't have control over your slave. He's not yours at all. 100% not yours. She can marry whoever she wants. She doesn't need to get shechur. Another Gival, the Gemai Samson, the Rebbe Abba Bar Zutro Ishtaboy. The slave, Rebbe Abba, was captured. Parko Ahu Tarmida, a guy of Chavim, redeemed her. L'shum Itzah. He said, "Oh, great wife." Shochalei the day, so they sent Rebbe Abba. Yosef Avdas, if you want to do the right thing, Shalach Gittin Chirusa, send her a star shichur. So the Gemara Echidam, if they're able to redeem her, if this bad guy, this Tarmudah, would release her and give her back to her Baba, so what do you need to get shikhr? And if he wouldn't agree to it, what good is it to send a get cheres? Said the Gemara a few things. A couple of things. Yeah, you could redeem her. Once you send her a get cheres, these people, the Jews in that city, held that you don't have to redeem a slave. But we wanted to show that, okay, too late now. It's the same thing. Okay, just the fact that it became green. They captured and the Klal Yisrael went in there and took it over. Okay. So we want to encourage the locals to redeem her, so we send a get cherus, and then they'll wake up and they'll say, "Oh, she's going to be Jewish. Oh, she's Jewish. We'll redeem her." No, there's nothing to do over there. The guy took her as a wife. But once Rebbe Abba, they were telling Rebbe Abba, protect your slave. She worked for you, protect her. Send her get cheres. Then what? This guy he's going to be embarrassed. What? Everybody's going to know, he married a Jewish slave. That's the word. I mean, Bishleim, it's a Goyish slave. No. But she's a Jewish slave. I'm married to a Jewish slave? No way. So by sending a get cheres, people are going to know about it. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? It's no good. He should take pride in a Jewish slave. It's unbelievable. An idol worshiper prefers the animal, relations with the animal of a Yid than his own wife. What's pshat? Because they're trying to chop onto some spark of Kedusha. The Sitra Achra needs Kedusha to exist. So they feel, okay, even the animal of a Yid is better than my own wife. So the Gemara, that's all great. You want to do Kedusha, but in the privacy of your own home. Aval, to walk with the Jewish sheep that says wife on it in the middle of the street, not a great thing. That he's not proud about. So also he's embarrassed of being married to this Jewish slave. Says there was a slave in Pumbedisa that people were over Yisurim with her. The say of loilam bohem ta'avoidu. Have a kafina lemoro because of the Gittin Chirusa. If not for this Isser to free your slave, I would say, listen, everybody's doing an Aveir with her, let's free her. No, not true, I argue. Rav Yehuda would agree, even though there's an Isser, there's a mitzvah to work your slave forever. But in this case, since everybody's over in Yisurim, Redeemer, how? You don't tell somebody to be over Isser, okay, Rishonim talk about it. What? And Abaye says that if everybody's over Isser, you shouldn't redeem her. There's a woman who was only a half a slave. Why was she half a slave? Let's say she had two masters, one released her, one didn't. So it's Kash on Abaye. Abaye says that you don't ever redeem a slave. Over here you see, you do redeem a slave. But Kafu is Rabba, you do redeem her. The reason why they redeemed her is because she was Hefker. Our story with Abaye also, they treated her like Hefker. They're over Yisurim. So the Gemara who's going to watch her? Who's going to take care of her? Who's going to protect her from Yisurim? No one. She can't marry Jew. She can't marry a slave. Why? Because she's in between. She's not a Jew. She's not a slave. She's half and half. You don't have to release her. All you need to do is marry off to another slave, and he'll make sure they're not over any surim. We just turned to Amud Beis, sponsored by the Friedman family, Fowler sisters. Somebody gave me good eitzah. I already forgot who. He said, "Listen, you have this whole controversy. I'm saying, do it. I like it, but just do it at the end of the sugya, not in the middle of a word." He's 100% right. Why do it in the middle of the line? So Mela Yosef from now on is going to remind me when I'm 3-4 lines down, or if it's the middle. Sponsored, I don't have the wording. Okay. Yeah, okay, fine. I know. Sponsored by Mordechai Zapaznik, L'schos, in honor of myself. But the second one, I don't remember. Sponsored by the Tehillim Group, tehillim.8mindav.com. The Doilam is davening specifically for my mother-in-law, Shoshana Lea Bas Beila. They're not really, I saw on the list, she's not even on the list, but now she is. Gufa, Omer Rav Yehuda Shmuel. Kol HaMeshachar Avdoi Over Basei. Okay, so now we have a machlokes. Is it also to release your slave or not? Over here it says also. Shenemar Loyla Mem Ta'avoidu. Meisvei. Gewaldige Maisa. This is a real Maisa. Famous Maisa. Maisa V'Rebbe Eliezer Shenichas Beis HaKnesses. V'Lei Motza Asara. A guy goes to Zichur Moshe at 2 in the morning and doesn't find the minion. So what does he do? He calls up the taxi company and says, "Send me 5 taxis." And they all come, and they come. He says, "Listen, I need a minion. Put on your moneh, and I'll pay you. But I need you for a minion." Maaser Shahaya. And he had a minion. And when they left, they all said, "We're not going to try." He said, "We're Arabs." Who said that? Why did you guys laugh? Now you encourage them. Now he's going to try more. He's going to try to go for that hit again. Okay. They all left and they said, "Listen, Alenu, don't even bother." I had a kemat the same ice when I was a bacher in the mirror. A guy took me to my dira. I said, "It's Hanukkah. Come on in. Let's light the menorah." He said, "Oh, great idea." So he lights the menorah, schmoozes a little bit this, and then when he's going, he says, "Listen, the moneh is on the whole time. You're going to pay me for the entire thing." Maaser Shaya. So, yeah. Zok the Gemara. So over here, what happened? He didn't have a minion, so he had a great idea. The Gemara says he came with 2 avodim. He's Meshachar 1. B'shikhr avdoi v'shlim la'asara. Boy, we have a beautiful piece of art here. So here's the Eved carrying the Rebbe Lazar. Who is it? Rebbe Eliezer. And then he's Meshacher him. And Toich Kedei, the Shichur, this is what happened. Not only is he Meshucher, but he's the Baal Tefillah also. Okay. He's wearing a nice Gishmak fetch the hat. Says the Gemara, so what's the obvious answer? Mitzvah Shani. So let me challenge you. What mitzvah was he Mekayim here? It's a mitzvah. What's the mitzvah exactly? Huh? Daven Minyan. No, what pasuk is that? Where does it say that in the Torah? It's the Rabbanon. So for mitzvah the Rabbanon, you're allowed to be over in the Issa D'Oraisa of Lo'ilam Bem Ta'avodu. The Torah says, do not free your slave, but I have a mitzvah the Rabbanon. I'm allowed to free my slave. So the Gemara, Torah Rabbanon Lo'ilam Bem Ta'avodu Rishus. Oh, so now we have someone who argues, Divri Rabbi Shmuel. So Rashi explains over here, if you look at it's a long Rashi. Rashi says that the Torah, when the Torah says Lo'ilam Bem Ta'avodu, comes to tell you that you're not allowed to marry somebody from the 7 nations. But if a guy from another nation married a woman from the 7 nations, a Canaanist, and they had a child, so the Torah says that you're allowed to buy him as a slave. You're allowed to buy him as a slave. That's what it means, Lo'ilam Bem Ta'avodu. Don't think that the Torah is coming to say that you're not allowed to release him. The Torah is coming to say that you're allowed to buy him. And Memela, Lo'ilam Bem Ta'avodu Shus. You want to work him for the rest of his life, great. You want to free him, no problem. No issa, says Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva argues and he says, no, you're not allowed to release him when you want. Says the Gemara, but Akopanim, you're asking me, why did Rabbi Eliezer redeem a slave and bring him to a minion? The answer is, because he holds that Lo'ilam Bem Ta'avodu is not a chiyuv. You're allowed to redeem whenever, you're allowed to release whenever you want. And can you imagine Stamazai? Think about it. This guy was a big tzaddik. He got 5-6 taxis and he paid them 30 shekel each. But Rebbe Eliezer is a much bigger tzaddik because he released his $100,000 slave. I don't know how much a slave costs, but I'm sure it's more than 100 shekel. It's a lot of money. You're talking about thousands of dollars to do one mitzvah, to do a derabanan. Think about it. So the Gemara, it's impossible to say that. Rebbe Eliezer says no, it's usher to redeem. So if it's usher to redeem, why do you redeem him for a minion? Mitzvah shani. There's 3 things that cause wealthy people to lose their money. The mapke of the over on the Lo'ilam Bem Ta'avodu. They say, oh, he's a great guy. He's learning Torah. He has a bunch of mitzvahs. We're going to release him. This is a big one, Rabbi Yisai. I might have been over on this literally myself last Shabbos. If you're doing construction on your house, you're building a nice big house. It's common. You take a nice spatzir on Shabbos with your mishpacha, start pointing things out, You go inside, and you go, I gotta remember, tell the contractor, better put the toilet on this side. Huh? You're not allowed to. On Shabbos, it's Aser, Isser, D'Oraisa. It says in the pasuk, Vikarasa, it's in the thing, Vikarasa, it's in Yeshaya. Now the thing about your chafetzim, I'm saying I was doing construction, not that I thought about anything, but it's geschmack to go on Shabbos, look around, see how things are going. It's a problem. Think about it. You have a chiyuv to go to shul for the Amaratzim that didn't learn during the week. There was a shir on Shabbos. You have to go. They instituted, you have to go to the shir. What does this guy do? Instead of going to shir, he stays home and fresses. He makes a suah. He's a big tzaddik. He's doing the suah Shabbos. Kiddush club. Oh, Mavish Kiddush club. When the Rav is speaking, he goes and he has a Givaldik. Okay, that's a little different. Listen to this. There's 2 families in Yerushalayim. One had a suda during the speech. And one pshat is that they were kaveya the suda on Friday night. And this, Rabbi says, is a huge chiddush, and it's a terrible thing. I don't know one person that's not over in this. If you think about it, everybody say now out loud, what su'udah do you invest more money and better food in? Friday night or Shabbos morning? Huh? Morning. Who says morning? Your cold schnitzel, that's what you invest? You're supposed to. Correct. You're supposed to. but I think most people invest more effort. Huh?
Shalashudis is supposed to be even more than.
Don't talk to me about Shalashudis. I'm not very good with that.
Shalashudis is supposed to be even more.
Okay, so listen, that's one thing. So people are over that they made a big Suda Friday night, and they got uprooted. Their family was destroyed because they made a bigger Suda Friday night than Shabbos morning. Nekru. But look at Rashi's second pshat. This is a little scary because this goes against the big minhag in our days. Became a minhag, unfortunately. It's called Toyamel. In America, it's huge. And Toyamel, they stuck in a Hebrew word, a Lashon Kodesh word, and they made it like a chiyuv. But it's an isser. Toyamel, they go and they buy meat platters and cholent and kugel, and they sit down pretty close to Shabbos, an hour or two before Shabbos, and they fress it up. Fress it up. And what does Rashi say over here? I don't want to be this big Bamusa guy and ruining everybody's good time. But it says, V'chein b'chol yoyim meroi v'yisher, aval b'ha mi'ika isura. Rashi says it's isur. She'ikonis l'Shabbos kishu soveya b'loi tava. When you come into Shabbos, all upgezaft, what's the word? How do you say it? Upgefrest. It's the opposite. We work so hard for Kavod Shabbos, Oynik Shabbos, and this and that, the white tablecloth, and we're makbid. The meat should be this hechsher and that hechsher with all the chumras. But what about, you're not allowed to even eat now. Forget about all the chumras. You can't even eat the meat. Okay? You got to be careful, Rabbi Yisai. It's all good and fun to have fun and enjoy and have a good time, but in the right place and time. Vushneim nekru. You hear this? According to one pshat in Rashi, you chayiv misa on Toyamel. I'm not kidding. Nekru, that's what it says here. Rashi says, those who eat before Shabbos and they go into Shabbos without having a big taiva, nekru. They're uprooted. Omar Rav, Hamagdash Avdoi. This is a new sugya, but we got to do a few lines. We can't start Motzei Shabbos over here. Shachris at 8:20. Omar Rav, Hamagdash Avdoi Yotzel Cherus. Listen to this. A person decides to give a donation to the Beis Hamikdash, is a slave. He goes out. He's free. But this is Rav. Rav, we have to remember, he says he goes out free. My time of Gufei Eloi Kodesh. What's Hekdesh going to do with him? Put him on the Mizbeach? Sacrifice him? What are you going to do? Gufei Eloi Kodesh. Lidmei Eloi Kalmar. He didn't say for his value. Am Kodesh Kalmar. What he intended is that he should be a Jew. Am Kodesh. A holy nation. Rav Yosef Amar Rav. But Rav Yosef says in the name of Rav, Hamafker Avdoi Yotzel Cherus. That's not what our Rebbe Rav said. Our Rebbe said, not that if you send him to the Beis Hamikdash, if you say he's ownerless, he's hefker, then he goes al cherus. Mando Amar Magdish Koshkim Afker. Certainly, if you say that if you made him part of the Beis Hamikdash, he goes al cherus. So certainly, if you made him ownerless, he should go al cherus. Mando Amar Mafker. But Rav Yosef, who says that Rav didn't say hekdesh, only said hefker of a Magdish loy. Why? Maybe his intent was whatever his value is. That's what I want to give the Beis Hamikdash. Ibaylu. In those two cases, whether you made him hefker or made him hegdish and he goes out and he's free, but do you have to give him a get so he can marry whoever he wants? Again in the name of Rav. Whether it's hefker, whether magdish your evid, yotzel cheres, v'tzarich get shichur, that's halach in the Shulchan Aruch, you need to get shichur. Just a few more lines. Tell me when to stop. By the way, Motzei Shabbos 10:15. I have a question on myself from this. Over here it says Mefurish that I was magdish a slave because it said I was magdish everything that I own, and there's some slaves in there. The Beis Hamikdash can't do anything with them. They can't sell. They can't release them. I could the gizbar, the gabbai could sell it to somebody else and let that guy release him. How exactly that works, the Rishonim talk about it, because the Hekdesh doesn't have the right. They have all the rights on him, but they don't have the right to release him. But they sell all the rights to somebody else and let that other guy release. Rabbi Oimer Oimani, Afu Noisin de Mei Atzmoi V'Yotzei Mipnei Shukim Meicherloi. But Rebbe holds that if you magdish your slave, you don't go al lecheros. Rav says you do go al lecheros. So what do we do here? Rebbe just said that a magdish avdoi. No, he doesn't go. It's not released. You have to. The Hekdesh sells him. They do whatever they want. What does Rebbe say? Who knows in the Miyatzma he can even buy himself, but he doesn't go out l'cheirus. He could purchase himself back from Hegdish. So we have a problem. How does Rav say that he's released? Rebbe says he's not released. Who's Rebbe and who's Rav? Rabbi say, what's the relationship between Rav and Rebbe? Rebbe wrote the Mishnah. And who's Rav? His Talmud. Rebbe is the last Tana. Rav is the first Amoira. So what's the big kasha? How could Rav argue on Rebbe? So that's what the Gemara says. Masnisa Ramis Alei the Rav. You asked me a kasha Rav from a Mishnah? Rav, Tanu Polig. Rav, it was so great, even though he's the first Amoira, he's still considered a Tana who could argue on his Rebbe Yehuda and Asi. And therefore that's what he does. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.